Batman Arkham Origins. I would honestly give this game a 10 out of 10, but let me tell you why it won't be receiving that score from me. Let's get into my review by first of all saying the good about the game. This game is amazing. If you didn't already know, Arkham Origins was developed by Warner Bros. Games Montreal and not the usual well-acclaimed Rocksteady Studios that brought us the first two Arkham games, Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. So this made many people, including me myself, wary and skeptical about how Arkham Origins would turn out. But as a gamer, as a Batman fan, and someone who's actually platinumed Arkham City, I feel I have every right to speak about this. I'm very happy to announce that this game was in good hands, and instead of degrading Rocksteady's legacy, Warner Bros. Montreal has created a great addition to the Arkham series, and dare I say it, the best Arkham game thus far. You heard me loud and clear, and I'll be the first to say it, that yes, this game is copied and pasted. It's obvious that Rocksteady have given Warner Bros. Montreal their coding to expand upon. You will see the same animation from previous games and areas of the map from Arkham City looking almost identical. But how on earth is this a bad thing? Who would want an Arkham game that doesn't look or feel like what Rocksteady have spent years building? The art style and the feel is the same as always, but Arkham Origins actually looks the best out of the three, both cutscenes and in-game graphics. I must also mention that the PC version gets additional enhancements and technologies to make the game look better. Although I just mentioned much is the same, Warner Bros. Montreal have also added things that I warmly welcome. I mentioned that the areas of the map look similar, for example the brewery and the steel mill, but when you actually go inside the steel mill, you will see that the interior is slightly redesigned or rearranged and structured differently. This indicates that time has actually occurred when you bear in mind that this is a prequel. Also, the majority of the animations are recycled, but there are a few new ones that you'll rarely see, but when you do see them, it will make you happy. I also love the new and revamped high-tech detective mode. It works well and is visually stunning, although it can feel like it's on rails and forces you to follow a path of instructions even though you already know or can see evidence. This is a younger, less experienced and more hot-headed Batman, but the developers didn't make him an idiot in a suit who doesn't know what to do. Instead, they made him perform well enough and observe his own mistakes to quickly fix them and learn how to do better in his next encounter, whether it's interrogation, combat or stealth encounter. In this game, Batman does make a few mistakes, such as not watching his back or reacting on time, but his mistakes do not get to the point where you feel like turning off the game because of his stupidity. In fact, you feel like you're in his boots, and as you do so, you agree with yourself that you'll probably make the same mistakes too. The story mode of this game is magnificent, and not just a story, but a journey that develops Batman to be the better, stronger, smarter one you know today. The plot is simple, but provides enough drama to keep you smiling and on the edge of your seat. Black Mask places a bounty of $50 million on Batman's head. This entices 8 of DC's interesting villains to go after Batman, consequently making his night one hell of a hot and chaotic Christmas Eve. On top of all that, the Gotham City Police Department are also hungry for some of the money. After all, this is Gotham, and Gotham screams corruption. As corrupt as Nigeria? I don't know, but definitely corrupt indeed. Over time, Alfred starts to debate with and worry for Bruce Wayne, giving him his own advice and pleading with him to back down. This is where most of the emotional elements of the story come from, and it was very interesting to see. Alfred is a lovable character, especially because we all know the one thing he wants: Bruce Wayne's safety. He would hate himself if he was to see another Wayne pass away without him being there for them. So to conclude the story mode, it's basically made up of emotion and drama, thus creating one of the most fun and amazing visions of Batman's backstory to see. The emotion comes from Alfred's doubts, worries and care, and the drama comes from the well-designed, money or bloodthirsty villains after Batman's head, combined with a decent plot twist. It was very interesting to see how the core characters of Batman's life, such as Commissioner Gordon, became relevant. Every cutscene was enjoyable, well written, and made me want to play on to find out what happens next. Another aspect that made me want to play on was the boss fights, and my oh my, they were phenomenal. I wanted to see if it would be the same repetitive generic system, but no. Each boss fight is beautifully choreographed and intense. One even has a change of scenery. Please do not watch the fights on YouTube. You need to walk into them, understand them and play them for yourself. It's one thing to watch and a whole completely different thing to feel. It's the Deathstroke boss battle that blew me away. It forces you to watch his actions, wait for openings and counter his attacks on time. Too early or too late and you will be punished. Let me humbly admit that it took me 3 tries to defeat him because I expected to get away with the button mashing, and on the second try I underestimated how long the fight would go on for. By the time I was done with him, I was already satisfied with my purchase and I knew I was in for one hell of a ride. Finally, it's no surprise that the Joker is in this game. One of the most fundamental things between the Joker and Batman is their relationship. Batman does something that completely destroys the Joker's mind and sends him into a phase of disbelief and denial. I really cannot cover it as I would be spoiling it for you, but it's extremely unexpected and a little funny. From this moment, it's like the Joker desires Batman's company and attention because he brings something new to his life. Fun. Fun, which is what the Joker is all about. It's really well done and leads onto the obsession and chaos that the Joker provides in the other two Arkham games. This game seriously overwhelmed me, probably because I was worried about the developers messing things up. I also quickly want to cover the Joker's and the Batman's voice actors. Troy Baker and Roger Craig Smith had immense amounts of pressure on them. The Batman fanbase is huge and channeled through many forms of media, whether it be the comics, movies or even the games. If they were to deliver poor performances, they would be hated and 2013's biggest laughing stock. However, I am once again happy to clarify that their performances were great, although I do feel that Roger Craig Smith did a better job as a young Batman compared to Troy Baker's Joker. But all in all, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill should definitely salute the new voice actors. Such a relief. And now we're onto the bad. First of all, the open world is 2 times bigger than the one in Arkham City. Unfortunately, it just seems so bland, dead and with not much to offer. The interiors of buildings look great and well designed, but the outdoors is really plain. I understand that it's Christmas season, but the open world doesn't really scream that at you. It's not decorated enough. It's so plain and it looks as if the snow is the only thing the designers could come up with. Secondly, the game also mentions the stormy weather and again it being Christmas Eve. But I don't understand the lack of civilians or pedestrians. They really would have brought life to the dead open world. Sure, you bump into some kidnapped civilians who thank you, but this is implemented into the story and not necessarily into the open world. Why didn't the developers expand on this idea? For example, throughout the game, you will have thugs scream at you, "It's real! Batman is real!" But it would make things more believable and two-sided if you have civilians doing the same as well. The game has crimes in progress, which Batman has the choice to intervene and stop. But the developers were not creative at all about what these crimes involve. How about a civilian being mugged for their Christmas shopping, or a civilian being forced to do something if they wanted to go home? It never happened. It was mostly just the GCPD fighting some thugs and vice versa. Boring, uninspired and pretty disappointing. It makes me want to ignore these so-called crimes in progress. Seeing as I'm talking about the open world, I might as well tell you about how horrible the frame rates can be when outdoors. It gets disgustingly low and caused me to lose an encounter once. However, I must say that it wasn't a scripted encounter which was part of the story. It was just some random guys on the rooftop that I wanted to beat up whilst free roaming. In other words, if Batman is not doing what the story or side missions want you to do, the frame rates can get pretty bad. If it's the developer's fault or the PS3 and 360 not just being able to handle the game, we will never know. Sure, Grand Theft Auto 5's open world is bigger, but Arkham Origins is the more graphically intensive game, and that's probably where the problem resides. However, this game did have an install, so I am not going to let this negative slide at all. It's unacceptable. Another thing that I noticed is that less platforming was implemented into the main story of the game. Also, in the story mode, the Predator encounters were a little too easy. The enemies were not laid out as constructively as what Rocksteady would do, meaning it was no real challenge. Also, this is the 3rd installment of the Arkham franchise and there is still no chapter select to let us directly replay some of our favourite parts of the game. This feature better be in the next one. Last but not least, the multiplayer. For the sake of making my review shorter, I refuse to review this component. Let's just say it's really unnecessary, does not work that well and should have been left out. The score will also be going down as it is part of the game and I have to consider that. Again, I will present a better idea. Co-op. It's that simple. All these characters to choose from and 2 people can play together on Predator maps or combat maps with tag team takedowns and other forms of teamwork. Now that I'm actually thinking of this idea, that would be awesome and less embarrassing compared to the mode Warner Bros. Montreal have implemented. You developers really need to hire me. It is now time for the verdicts. And this generation of gaming has brought a lot of people saying game X, Y or Z is overrated, but I am here to tell you that this game is underrated. Overall, the developers have taken what Rocksteady brandished and ensured that the work or image was not flamed by fans. I will say it again, I feel that this game is the best in the series so far, and I know that I am not alone on that opinion. Many people are sleeping on this game because 1, it's a prequel, and 2, it's not from the original developers, Rocksteady. But I am going to fight for the developers and fight for Batman and get as many people to avoid missing out on one of this generation's greatest story modes ever. Rent this game, steal it from a friend if you have to. Whatever you do, do not overlook this game. Initially, my only 2 Game of the Year 2013 contenders were The Last of Us and GTA 5, but I tell you, this game has blown me away and definitely and rightfully crawled its way into the fight. A new and worthy Game of the Year contender indeed. This game is getting a lot of funny mixed reviews right now, and I cannot fathom some of the low scores, but I am asking you to trust me, as I've always kept it real on this channel, and I guarantee that the story at least will not let you down. Batman Arkham Origins is getting a special title from me. I'm labeling it as Most Impressive Story of 2013, and lastly, the game gets a 9 out of 10. I'm also going to give a standing ovation to the developers for not fucking things up. You've actually genuinely impressed me and earned my trust. And for that, here is a standing ovation. Woo! Now, Arkham Origins on Amazon is only £30. That is the cheapest game at launch I have ever bought. And I'm hoping that you are also going to buy this game. Either way, thank you for watching my review. Look out for my Arkham Origins parody, and until next time, peace out.